Joining us now on the Deseret First Credit Union hotline is BYU basketball analyst, former Cougar in the early 90s, Mark Durrant. Mark, welcome back to the program, my friend.
Thank you. Always a pleasure to be on with my good friends, Spencer and Jerem.
Yeah, baby. Mark, what's your confidence level for BYU basketball heading into the West Coast Conference tournament this week?
Well, I would say I'm about as confident in them winning the tournament as I am that Greg Wrubell and I are going to be the next Vidal Sassoon spokesmodel.
That confident, huh?
I don't mean to be too critical, but I'm just going off of what I've seen the last couple weeks, and specifically at home against Gonzaga. So ostensibly you're going to have to play San Diego, which is a team you really struggled with, got beat pretty good just a little while ago at their place. Then if you were to win that, you're probably going to play St. Mary's that you went 0-2 against, and then you go against Gonzaga, you would presume, and you just got drilled. I mean, absolutely drilled at home by those guys. So that's just kind of where I'm at right now. But with that said, I mean, things can change really quickly. Teams can get hot, get their confidence back, start hitting their threes. Because if you'd asked me, a month or two ago, my answer would have been different. I would have said there's a really good chance. But I'm just going based on what I've seen, the trend in the last couple of weeks and how they've struggled in the terrible three-point shooting and teams kind of figuring them out in different ways and how to approach them. And so I don't mean to be to tell the guys I don't believe in you, but I'm just going objectively from what I've seen recently. But I've seen it before happen. Things can change in just a couple minutes with the team. It's really weird, and they get their swagger back and their confidence, and you win one game, and then you start feeling good, and maybe you beat St. Mary's, which, that's certainly a possibility. They haven't dominated you necessarily. You've been in those games, and then if you win that game, then you're really feeling good about yourself, and maybe you have some chance against Gonzaga. But just watching the last couple of weeks, as an objective observer, I wouldn't give BYU much of a chance.
Mark, BYU finished 5-5 in the last 10. At what point we were talking about the Cougars with 12-2? They had this new offense, new defense. I don't know that BYU made all the adjustments that were made on them. Do you see perhaps the Cougars making some kind of adjustment going into the tournament that could offset that?
I hope so. We had Heath Schroyer on. Dave wasn't feeling very well on our show after the game, and I think he's very bright, and Tim Lacombe and Quincy. I think with a week to prepare and kind of just sit back and look at what teams are doing to them, and maybe have some time to implement some new things. Heath Schroyer said we're going to have some wrinkles, we're going to do some different things, and so I certainly hope so, but I don't think there's any question that teams have kind of an approach on how they want to beat BYU. They really want to slow it down, limit possessions, really play physical, try and create some turnovers. BYU's been has been susceptible to turnovers, and really just bully BYU, really be physical with TJ and physical with Elijah. And that seemed to work for the Pacifics and the LMUs and San Diegos. And Gonzaga doesn't need to do that as much because they're just so superior athletically to everybody that they can just kind of do their thing. But that's a formula that's worked for teams, and that's certainly how San Diego is going to approach BYU. So unless you want more of the same results at 5-5, you better have some changes. But I think they will. I think they'll do some things to try and address what teams are doing to them, and hopefully that'll be successful.
What are some of those things, in your opinion?
Well, again, I think BYU is not going to win games with their athleticism. And Gonzaga can win games just because they're so much better athletically than other teams. BYU, they're undersized. You got Jashir, small point guard. TJ weighs about 75 pounds, I think. And Elijah Bryant's kind of the guy on the perimeter that can match up athletic. But Yoli's undersized, but a good shot blocker. Depending on who you have, Luke or Nixon, who I really like both of those guys, they're often undersized. So they're going to have – BYU needs to out-execute. They need to work harder. They need to be smarter to win games. And teams try and really frustrate them with the referees. They say we're going to be super physical because referees can't call everything. That'll create turnovers, and we're going to limit possessions because, then every possession is more valuable, and we're going to have a chance at the end because we're going to be in the game. I mean, that's the approach. So I don't know a lot of things you can do, but BYU, I think, can rebound offensively better. But it may come down to shooting the three-point shot better and getting better looks. I mean, they've been just absolutely horrendous the last 10 games from three. And unless that changes, I mean, BYU's not good enough, as I've said before, I think, to overcome some of their other weaknesses. If what should be their strength, the three-point shooting, is not working, then what do you look for? I mean, it makes it really tough.
Future Vidal Sassoon model, Mark Durrant, with this on BYU
what
Sports
year
Nation.
is the question.
It's such an interesting dynamic, Mark, because we feel like BYU is certainly capable of beating anybody in the West Coast Conference, but they have shown that they are capable of losing to any team in the West Coast Conference. That said, what kind of impact will the Lamont Smith news of alleged domestic abuse have on this San Diego basketball team and how they play against BYU this Saturday?
Yeah, so that's pretty shocking news, and I can't imagine a scenario where he'll coach. Whether or not whatever happened or whatever allegations there are, I don't think San Diego can afford to have him on the bench. So the question is, was that make a difference? And I'll say no, not really.
Really?
Yeah, not at all in my view. I mean, these are teams that have played 30, 35 games at this point, and they've got it all figured out. And they just played BYU. They played them twice. They just had a scout. And people, all due respect to coaches, people give coaches way too much credit, okay? The players will go out and play and win. They know their stuff, and they'll be just fine. Now, I guess the caveat to that, I would say, is maybe you're in a tight game and you want a coach to decide what play is going to work, but assistant coaches are qualified too. Anyway, the point is, I don't think it's going to make any difference at all. What could happen is if BYU started the game and took a 5 or 10 point lead, maybe in the minds of the players are thinking, well, everything's just falling apart. We're not going to win this. But I don't think San Diego has any fear at all of BYU. I think they think they're going to win this game easily because of what happened to Jenny Craig, and that they know their stuff, and the players are going to go out and do what they've done all year long, and whether or not their coach is sitting on the sidelines isn't going to make a lot of difference in my view.
Mark, always entertaining to speak with you, my friend. I wish you the best in your future modeling career.
I won't forget you guys when I hit it big.
Thanks, Mark.
No, we appreciate the unbiased take, and as hard as it is for BYU fans to hear some of this, that the situation is what it is right now.
Yeah, but I say all that, but man, I still have hope, and there's some really good players on this team and some good coaches. So we'll go down and play the games and see what happens.
Amen to that. Thanks, Mark.
All right, thanks, fellas.
Mark Durrant.